everyone. Welcome to Mission to Inspire. My name is Shola, as you know, and we're joined by Adam Levine. Hi, Adam. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing? Thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. We are grateful that you're on our show today, and we are going to be talking about a few things, especially around chaotic environments. So I'm not going to read your bio. For me, I think it's best heard from the horse's mouth. So I would allow you to introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and let us know you better, Adam.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, my name is Adam Levine. I am a high performance coach, specializing neuroscience and really understanding or decoding the science of ultimate human performance, learning what are those triggers and what are those amazing things that you see in the Olympics? What are the amazing things that you see in athletics or even in the business world? And you just are at awe to that. And you're like, wow, people can potentially view these people as omnipotent, mythical creatures. And that's that's where I kind of come in and realize and really understanding what exactly is going on from a neurochemical perspective and using that information to help other people so they could be that type of person. The name of my company is InnerXLab, and I just recently launched in February. So I've been around 7 to 8 months, and I got to tell you, it's been quite a journey, but it's been great. And I really I'm here. My mission is really just to help people, serve people, and just spread the message on, optimization. And, I think there's nothing wrong with having that. And everyone has a voice as far as what that level of optimization is. And I think everyone deserves to be heard. And this is just another platform. Again, thank you for having me to provide that.
Oh, thank you so much for introducing yourself and for letting us know you better. So, when I was going through your bio, I could see that you're journey from two productive hours a day to over 6 hours productive a day. I mean, that is really remarkable, to be honest. What were the key habits or mindset shifts that helped you to make that leap?
Yeah, no, that's a great insight. Thank you for the question. Yeah, so I think when you think about that, and you're right when you made that. So I think initially the first thing that came to my mind before understanding is like, and I think maybe other people, if we could have like this is a safe space. Most people, right, if they told their boss, of course, yeah, I'm productive 7 hours. Let's be honest. What do you define as being productive, right? If you are in an office from 9 to 5, you are getting paid, you're doing something. But that's what I'm saying, you're doing something. So reality is, if you're working from home, what I really consider or define that as being productive is having what I call a sprint, where you could physically sit down, do a task, let's say at your computer, no one's around, and you could sit down end to end for 90 minutes and do that 4 or 5 times, like adding up with breaks in between. That's what I consider being productive. There's emails and all that stuff. And I think that stuff gets just garbaged up, unfortunately. And I think that's part of it. But I think the average knowledge worker, and I don't want to call anyone out, at least I can call myself out. So that's fine. No one's going to criticize me. If I'm criticized, who's going to say, no, Adam, you're more productive than you were? No one's going to do that. But reality is, in all seriousness, is that the amount of times you check your phone and how much people are actually being physically productive and getting it done are really like 2 to 3 hours. If you could look yourself in a mirror, not get judged, and say to your boss, yeah, I only work 10 minutes, but you are online for 8 hours and get fired, this is something between you and yourself, right? No one else is going to say that to you. That was me. And part of that was just distraction. One of the things that I think was really getting in my way, especially post COVID, is, I work at a very um, I work at a big financial institution. Um, and even in general, prior to that, I worked at S&P Global and some other big heavy hitters. And you got to perform. These are high-paced environments. But what made it even hard over the last 2 to 3 years is COVID, a post-COVID world. We work at home. And I think being in an office naturally, you're just going to be more focused. But when you're home, you have more of, what do they say about the apple? Adam ate the apple, the forbidden fruit. Well, you have the forbidden fruit that are you working at a desk? Are you working at your couch? Are you watching TV? There's all these things that you could do that companies will really never know. And as a result of that, there's more temptation. So I think it's actually harder to work from home. Most people say no, but reality, I'm just giving the facts. Maybe it's easier, maybe people are, but reality is you have more distractions in a home. You may have a wife, you may have family, your significant other, your partner, all of these things. So I think the first and foremost habit that really kind of was a huge game changer for me
Mm-hmm.
is this concept that I call detoxic
Right.
dopamine detoxification, in the fact that every time a buzz goes up, oh, it's a social media notification, oh, it's a message, you're always looking at your phone. So imagine how many times, like, and I invite anyone to do this, how many times in a given day are you literally, it's that thing, it's the curiosity to do that. It's the curiosity and resources you're leveraging to want to see those notifications. Now, if you're checking that over 300 times a day, there's no way that you could be productive for 6 hours. That's what was happening with me. But then I watched this amazing video, and this is how I kind of got into coaching, in the fact that every time it's that dopamine squirt, that part of how you're able to really have creativity in an environment, or what I call being in a state of flow, is having the neurochemical resources to do that. So people that are able to execute on par, like Elon Musk and all of them, it's because they're preserving what I call their cognitive resources. This
Right.
is where we're getting under. So what I was doing was I was depleting that every time I was looking at my phone. So there was this model that I sort of understood from that I watched from this video, and I kind of really spent the bulk of my last 2 years really honing my own research on it. And basically the theory, and it really is a valid concept, is that the more that you're looking at your phone and the more that I'm supposed to sit down at my computer for 90 minutes, but I've been interrupted 3 times, 30 times in an hour, the quality of my work has been going down and the distractions up. So
Mm.
and why is that? Because I've I'm using my curiosity. Curiosity is a natural primal habit that was built into us. That right there is a superpower. What does that mean? Ooh, let me go to this movie. Let me get this next thing, right? That's everything that we experience. So
Mm.
double down. That's what I mean by leveraging on your biology. So I would take the what I call curiosity, look at my phone enough times, it would deplete my energy. So by the time I'm ready to get back into my work, I'm losing focus. So this model basically said, and this hypothesis, which I can actually hold true, is that by essentially eliminating distraction, your dopamine conservation goes up, and your work goes up, which means that your distraction goes down and your quality of work goes up. What does that mean, quality of work goes up? It means that during these optimal states of consciousness, things that you may have heard of, being in the zone,
Mm-hmm.
runner's high, jazz members say being in the pocket or being
Yeah.
in the square, is that's what the feats are. These athletes are performing what they call a state of flow, which basically means that your prefrontal cortex completely shuts off, your amygdala deactivates, and that's essentially what's going on. And
Mm.
more resources are going to that, so that when Elon Musk came up with the whole concept of what a Tesla car is, or how an author came up with their next book, that most likely was being done during flow. So what I'm basically saying is someone else could be listening to this and refute what I have to say. Okay, you could refute what I have to say. But if you were to do what I said in those moments of rapt attention, reward is not for money, right? Money is a means to an end. That's an extrinsic motivator. But the reason I say it's not a means to an end is that how many celebrities do we know that committed suicide? Money was not enough. Robin Williams, Whitney Houston. I don't want to start getting in there. These are my favorite people that I emulated. But look what happened to them. Elvis Presley, right? I'm just ad hocly ranting names. Look what happened to them. Clearly, money wasn't enough. But inherently, if there's intrinsic motivators inside of you where if that stuff is really good, that is good quality mental health. And then eventually you will get the money. So that's what I mean by reward. It's not the money, it's your intrinsic rewards. So if you're constantly looking at your phone, you're losing what part of how you're getting that motivation is what I call that dopamine loop, right? It's a trigger that gets it. It's a dog, right? And I'm using this as an example using an animal. If you tell an animal to sit, or you go to an aquarium and you tell a dolphin to do it, what do you literally see these trainers do? Give it something. Give it something. We work the same way. We are reward-based, goal-oriented creatures. So that when we do something, imagine, and what do I mean by that? Oh, I'm so happy. I just finished this 30-page paper. That's dopamine right there. So you see, you're smiling because you know it's true. So now be deliberate about that. Stop looking at your phone. Do the task at hand. Right there. That's something that people could do right there. And the hack to doing that is going into your iPhone settings, taking off all your notifications for Facebook, social media, WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever it is, taking that off completely. Even text messages, do like the most important things. Like I only keep my text messages on for my wife and for my family and for any important things. Other than that, it's silence. A friend, they can get to me on the weekends. Those are the things that I use to hone in on essentially raising that quality. So that what's going on is that again, someone could refute me and say that I'm bullshit. I would say to them, maybe that's their threat detector going off, saying
Mhm.
no because they don't want to do it. But what I would say is try what I have to say. What I've just done is creating an optimized environment, giving myself a higher probability of success. I
Yeah.
can't guarantee you success. I can't say to you tomorrow, I could coach you today. I can't say you're going to get $1 million tomorrow. Shit
Mm.
is not easy, right? That's the one thing they say, excuse my French, but the one thing about peak performance and the one thing that I train is that it's compound interest. It's small wins every day. It's the dopamine. A
Right.
lot of the challenges with these coaches, and I feel bad for a lot of these people out there. I don't want to say they're suckers, but a lot of these coaches provide the sky, moon, and the stars. I'm going to be honest with you. I was one of those suckers. I did it. And that's why I'm a coach because I want to prevent that. But a lot of these coaches are making a lot of money. I'm not saying it's wrong, but they're giving these grandiose things where it's like, if you do this, you'll get it. Now, they're not wrong, but there's one difference between what I do and what they do. You know what that is? Every single coach out there, including Tony Robbins, I don't mean to burn him, but I'm using him, is that everything that they're teaching all of these people, it starts with a W and ends with a P. It's called willpower. When you were exercising willpower, that's literally what you're doing. As soon as you wake up, guess what? That leads to burnout and God forbid other things. What neuroscience does is tells you to leverage your biology, knowing that even willpower is a last thing that I will do, but even before that, it's grit. And that's the whole point. And I even teach, don't employ it, leverage your biology. So in a perfect world, if you're an entrepreneur and you create your environment of flow, it means that you're lowering your cognitive load. So if I had an entire to-do list, which I do, because after this, I have crazy things going on, but I have an executed to-do list. So that's right there. My brain has lowered cognitive load. So the reason I'm sharing all this is that back in the day before I learned all this, someone telling me to write down notes and all that didn't mean anything. But the reason that I'm intrinsically motivated to not look at my phone is because I'm like, oh, I get it. That's why every time I look at my phone, I'm just doing this habitually. The thing about us as creatures is that we are programmed of habit. Once you train that reinforced feedback loop, it
Mhm.
becomes easier to do it. What does that mean? So here's an example. Do you know how to drive? Do you
Yes.
drive?
Hmm.
Right. But imagine when you first drove, you were scared. Now you do it unconsciously. That's what
Unconsciously.
I mean. It's getting conscious habits into your unconscious. And that's what happens. A new task in the beginning is hard, but then your brain's such an amazing muscle that there's so much room that you end up, your brain could do it. Gets trained in the hippocampus, and then there's more room to learn other things. Those are the type of things that we learn. So I know I went off the reservation here, but going back to your question, I would say right there, it's the dopamine detox that I call it. And that to me is what I used to really increase attention, my attentional networks,
Hmm.
and being able to really up my focus and lower distraction.
You're right. Right. Wow. Interesting concept there. You speak about decoding ultimate human performance, though.
I
Can you
do.
explain
And
what that
yeah,
happens? What happens in the brain and body when someone is
absolutely.
currently
So I can't take full credit for it. So I have a mentor.
Right.
And his name is Steven Kotler. He's amazing. I was fortunate. His stuff was very pricey. I took the bold leap. It was the one of the best investments of my life, and that's really what changed me to want to be a coach and help other people. But part of, if anyone's interested, his stuff is great. And it's part of the Flow Research Collective. That's how I got started in it. But one of the books that he talks about, which is decoding optimal human performance, and I have to start from there versus and then defining it for you is that one of the things that to understand is that this concept of peak performance was a secret science that no one wanted to give away.
Right.
So decoding optimal human performance that at least Stephen did is that he took 20 to 30 years of research and he asked the big question, what
Yeah.
is it that these elite performers, action sports athletes are doing? So
Yeah.
he went around and he was a journalist. So he went around with like Tony Hawk and really with surfing and understanding what is going on in the brain.
Okay.
And that's what he did was to really understand what's going. So basically the whole concept of decoding human performance was that Stephen looked at all the external triggers, looking at what are some of the things that are going on in someone,
Mm.
and then seeing what those feats are. So that's what he spent his time on. And the consensus was is that people are what we call being in the zone. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who's the founder of this concept called flow, is essentially a state of optimal consciousness where you feel your best and you perform your best. So I'm going to ask you this question. Have there ever been moments where you feel like time and action just merge? What does that mean? It means where did the day go? It went by so quick. Or you enjoy something so much. That's flow. So that's what I mean by, and again, I'm just dumbing it down for a second, but that's the whole point that if you could spend your majority in this state of flow, you'll have a higher chance of getting quality work. And not just that, but when you're learning and skills acquisition goes up during flow states. That's the whole point. And there's a series of different triggers, and not to go through all of them, but examples of them. And this is where we all know some of them, what I'm about to share. You're gonna be like, I know this, Adam, but you know it. But once you stack all of them up and you're intentional, that's what makes it really amazing. So concepts of flow that get flow triggers that get into flow are what we call risk. Risk is something that's considered it. So if you're jumping out of an airplane right there, that could be a flow state. So it's not saying you need all of these, but it's just telling you that if you intentionally surround yourself by these, that's good. The second one is clear goals. Clear goals is another one. The
Right.
third is pattern. What we know about is pattern recognition. Our brain, that's essentially what creativity is. It's taking two disparate ideas and coming together. So when you're like, oh my God, it's an aha moment, there's a lot of neurochemicals going there, but that's essentially what's going on underpinnings in the brain. So that's another idea. What else can I say? The challenge, we call it the challenge skills balance. What does that mean? If
Mm.
something is too easy, you're bored. If something's way too hard, you're gonna crash. So by limiting this, so that's another thing. So I just brought up four of them. There's probably like five or six others, but using these as an example, I call this a flow stack. So if I use them alone, and it's like, well, what are the next thing that I could say to myself or say to a client is, let's audit this. What are the ones that you naturally are good at? So clear goals might be something that someone's really good at. Someone who, let's say, may have ADHD or something that just is not good at writing clear goals down, that's
Mhm.
something they have to work on.
Right.
Those are the things that I think are cool because most books will talk about here and there. Like Thomas
Mhm.
Cleary's book, James Cleary on Atomic Habits is great, but it's like you're getting these little pieces. And my coaching essentially is synergizing all of this stuff to say, what are the habits that you need to train amongst these triggers? Because if you could focus on a flow state and focus on these triggers, you're now gearing your entire training to this versus most people get confused and burn out because there's so much to do. So you kind of need to stay in your lane. Someone else may refute what I have to say and say, oh, flow is not. But that, to answer your question, that essentially what it means by decoding ultimate human performance is understanding that what's under ultimate human performance is a flow state. And then to activate or get into a flow state, there's triggers. Now, most of the time it happens unconsciously. People are not aware of it. It happens it fundamentally. But that's the whole point though. If do you want life to roll the dice or do you want to roll? Do you want that or do you want to be control and do you want to sit in the driver's seat? Everyone's going to say you, but most people who don't know this stuff, I'm sorry to say this to them, but it's life that's rolling the dice for them. What does that mean? It means that, well, why are you mad I'm angry because you did something to me. Well, no, I can control my emotions. I could be upset. It happens, but you didn't do it to me. That's what I mean by life doing that. So there are a lot of people like that, and they wonder why they're not successful. But once you start, if I start telling someone psychologically, it focus inwards and outwards. How many books really tell us that? Stephen Covey's, and I love all this stuff. I'm not saying no to it. I've read all of it, but it didn't do anything. Once I started understanding the you, not me, versus understanding that 2,000 years ago, we have what we call this ancient brain, and we had tribes. If we step foot out of our quote unquote tribal home, we're killed. It was life or death. We had hunter gatherers. Now we're in a more civil society. But unfortunately, that brain, that didn't change. The only thing that changes around us. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a car. Now there's an iPhone. There was a land phone. Those are the things that change, but our ancient hardware never changed at all. So that's the reason why the inside and out is because you did. So we still have that. And this is an evolutionary hypothesis, but for me, that was intrinsically motivating enough to do the thing that I already knew about, to understand the neuroscience and understand that I have this radar detector. People are born differently, but by understanding it from an evolutionary perspective, it's
Yeah.
basically meaning that you're no different than me or the next person, unless there's aliens. Last time I checked, there are no aliens in this world. So that's the point, is that I'd always get jealous and say, this person's amazing. Most people say they're born that way. Yeah, maybe some people were born with height or that. Michael Jordan got cut from the varsity team before he made the NBA. But there are things he probably didn't realize, I'm just being honest, that made him successful. That's what we do, is we try to understand it from you, understand the science of it, and really break down ultimate human performance like Legos, understand the underpinnings, tailor a program to you, and then build yourself up again.
Wow. Okay. Great. The role of innovation, what role does innovation actually play in creating high performance teams? Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
training focuses on that, especially the training organization for peak performance.
yeah. So that's another great question. So the only thing that we've spoken about that you've asked me about is singular flow, self. But what about in a group?
Mm.
So imagine being at a concert. Who's your favorite music artist?
I've got several.
So imagine one that you've been to and everyone's cheering. Like, what's going on there? How's everyone synchronously doing that? That is what we now call group flow.
Oh,
Imagine being a leader and teaching people the protocols to get into group flow. That means that I'm able to leverage people's biology to get into that. That is innovation. So there's a great book that I encourage people to read. It's called Bold. And one of the things they talk about is, they call it moonshot thinking, but how is it that people are able to do innovation? And one of the things that comes back to innovation is creativity. What sparks creativity? It's flow states. So how do you encourage innovation? If that's the question you're asking me, it's understanding the neurobiology and understanding what a flow state is. There's 4 stages to it.
wow.
And there's struggle, there's release, there's flow, and then on the back end of it, it's active recovery. These are all 4 things that we've been living our entire life on. But when
Wow.
you're intentional on it and you stack it up,
Mm-hmm.
that's how you can become what I call dangerous. And that means that you will be going into life untouchable, like you are a running back for, I don't know, like Emmett Smith back in the day and being the Dallas Cowboys, or
Mm-hmm.
being one of the fastest runners, the road
Yeah.
runner. You
Mm-hmm.
will literally absolutely be unstoppable. So again, that's how I would that's how I would essentially be encouraging this amongst teams, is understanding the neuroscience of creativity and then fostering it. It's not just understanding servant leadership, but
Yeah.
understanding again what goes under the hood on it and then training up from there.
Okay. So, as a high performance coach yourself and an agile coach, I know you've built your career in fast-paced, high-stress industry. How do you coach individuals and teams to strive in this type of environment, especially without the burning out?
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to a lot of the things that I said. Don't employ willpower, focus on your neuroscience. And
Wow.
that's kind of what I did. I mean, even like Steven's stuff is really good, and I did high performance. But one of the things that I did was try to understand high performance and connect it to agility. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a reason why agile is a methodology, it's an entire practice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what it is, if that makes sense. There are a lot of people who practice agility. They have no clue how to manage the agility, and that's where I come in again. So I think I hope that answers the
Mm,
question that I think
mm,
you may have
mm,
asked that.
mm. Thank you so much. Thank you. For people that might actually want to contact you in regards to your coaching, how do we find you? How do we contact you?
Absolutely. So you can go on my website, www.innerxlab.com. I'm also on social media. Search for me under either Adam Levine, not Maroon 5, but Adam Levine. I'm in Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just search InnerXLab. I'd say LinkedIn really has it. I have some great articles that I've been published in some sites, but innerxlab.com is great. You want to know a little bit more about me, go to the learning section of that website. I have blogs that I've done. I've done podcasts for amazing people like you that have hosted me that kind of talk about all of that. And then two things that I want to share that's coming up that I want to share with you is one, be on the lookout, but I'm in the process of writing a book. Don't want to say what it's about yet, but it's really cool. More to come. I'll certainly share it with you once it's done. But I'm really excited about that. That's really a new project. That's what I mean by the art of impossible. Had I not done it, I never would have written a book in my life. So that's
Wow.
one. And then two, one of the other things that I recently got a certification in is artificial intelligence to be an AI coach. So
Ooh.
now stack that on top of it. So one of the other things that I'm creating is an AI-based productivity system. It's an app. And for the world to hear, for you, I'm not charging any money. It's
Really?
free. I don't want to charge it. I want to help people.
Wow.
So
Wow.
be on the lookout for that. That's really cool. I'm really excited. I do think it's something that isn't really something that is out there. If you guys know me, if you see my certifications,
Mhm.
how many coaches have all of them?
No.
That's I can't speak for other people, but I'm all about establishing a brand. I suggest and other people do that.
Mhm.
So that's why anything that I create out to the world, it needs to be unique. So my website's pretty cool. Check it out. And yeah, definitely, again, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on our show. Any inspirational advice for people out there?
Yeah, you know what? Just whatever happens in life, be resilient. What does that mean? Life is hard, but one thing that Sylvester Stallone said in Rocky 5 is that it's not a matter of how many times you fall, but it's a matter of getting back up again. It's
Mm,
suffering the blows and quickly getting back up. Just keep on chugging along. You know how many mistakes I've made on the job too? But it's also made me the person I am. It's also made me the decision to get the certifications that I have.
mm,
Everything else in between. Who cares? It's not who cares, but it's the game of life. Don't play what I call the finite game. The finite game is playing Monopoly, requires two players, directions. There's a beginning and a game over. Don't play the finite game. Play what I call the infinite game. Life is life. It's
okay.
hard,
Mm,
but gamify your life. That's what I would tell people is find ways to just continue being resilient, look up gamification, try to find ways to reward yourself. We're reward-based individuals and realize that shit happens, but just continue getting up again and just continue moving on. That's what happens to me. I mess up every day. Here's a fun, ask my wife this. Seriously. My wife will tell you that. But the one thing seriously that I learned is that, and I love my wife, in case you're listening to this, but seriously, it's really all about falling and getting back up again. That's the best advice I have to give to everyone.
mm. Thank you so much for coming on our show today. Oh my God, that is so insightful. And I'm sure our audience would definitely benefit from this interview and learn from it as
It's
well. Thank you so
it
much for
is
being on our
it is
show.
my pleasure, and I hope we'll definitely talk in the future. Absolutely.
Definitely. So when your book is out and your other projects, let us know and we can
Thank you. I
continue
definitely will. I'll
the
keep
show.
you and your fans aware. Absolutely. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And it's Shola and Adam on Mission to Inspire. Keep downloading, keep listening, keep watching us. Thanks, everyone. Bye.